It was a dark afternoon, the kind where the sky was heavy with dark clouds, and the air smelled of rain. Yuto stood under the shelter of the bus stop, headphones on, eyes lost in the usual scenery. Every day he saw the same people rushing past, umbrellas raised, faces buried in their phones. But there was one person who always stood out to him. Her. She was always there, always standing in the rain without an umbrella, as if she didn't care about getting wet. Her long black hair dripping with rainwater, and her eyes seemed distant, gazing at something only she could see. Yuto couldn't help but feel drawn to her. It had been weeks, and still, she never spoke to anyone. She just stood there, waiting for a bus that never seemed to arrive. Day after day, she vanished before he could muster the courage to approach her. It was as if she were a ghost, haunting the rainy days. But today was different. Yuto could feel it in his bones. He tightened his grip on his umbrella and took a deep breath. Today, he thought, I'll talk to her. As the first raindrop hit his cheek, Yuto walked toward her. His heart pounded in his chest, louder than the rain hitting the pavement. The girl remained still, not noticing him until he was just a few feet away. "Hey," Yuto said, his voice barely audible over the downpour. She turned her head slowly, her eyes meeting his for the first time. There was something about her gaze that made Yuto's breath catch. It was soft, melancholic, yet warm, as if she had been waiting for someone to finally break the silence. "Why do you stand in the rain like this?" Yuto asked, his voice trembling. She tilted her head slightly, her lips forming a small smile. "Because the rain washes everything away." Yuto blinked. "Washes what away?" She paused, her eyes drifting back to the rain. "Memories, pain, sometimes it's the only way to feel free." The answer both intrigued and saddened him. He felt a strange connection to her words, though he didn't fully understand why. "I've seen you here every day," he said softly, "but I've never seen you get on the bus. Are you waiting for someone?" For a long moment, she didn't respond. Then, finally, she whispered, "I was, a long time ago." Yuto's heart ached at the loneliness in her voice. He stepped closer, offering his umbrella over her head, though the rain had already soaked her through. "You don't have to stand in the rain alone," he said gently. Her eyes widened, and for the first time, she seemed truly present. Why would you do that for me?" Yuto smiled, though his heart pounded in his chest, because no one should face the storm alone. For the first time, she laughed softly, a sound that was both sweet and sad. "You're kind," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "But I'm not someone you can save." Yuto's heart sank. "What do you mean?" She looked up at the sky, letting the raindrops fall on her face. "I've been waiting here, for someone who will never come back." "Who?" Yuto asked, his voice barely audible. She hesitated, her eyes glistening with unspoken pain. "Someone I loved, someone I lost." Yuto's throat tightened. He wanted to ask more, to understand, but something in her expression told him not to. Instead, he stood beside her, offering silent comfort in the midst of the rain. For the first time since he had seen her, she moved closer to him, standing under the umbrella with him. It was a small gesture, but it felt like a bridge between their worlds. "Thank you," she whispered. They stood together in silence, watching the rain fall around them, neither knowing what the future would hold. But in that moment, something had shifted. In her eyes, Yuto saw hope where there had once been sorrow, and in his heart, he knew that this was only the beginning, a beginning that would change both of their lives forever.